Greetings and welcome to Productive Discourse. Productive Discourse is a place where we talk about the positive activities that take place within our community. In other words, we're constantly searching for that shining needle of common ground in that haystack of fear. We're taking some time now to celebrate the summer and talk baseball, particularly the legendary Alameda Park League baseball, the T-shirt league that began in the 1950s. We've got three guests today, Danny Pereira, Kevin Kearney, and Steve Sorensen. They're alumni of Park League baseball, and they had so much fun. They're playing in an over 65 league in the East Bay. Dan, Kevin, and Steve, welcome to Productive Discourse.
Thanks, Steve.
Steve, how are you?
Great. Good having you here today, and we're going to have a great time. First, I'd like to ask all of you individually, how are you doing right now? These crazy times, what are you doing to stay happy and healthy during the pandemic?
Well, for me, just getting started. I've been bugging Kevin to get on this baseball team for years. And finally, after COVID and everything else, and he goes, here's these guys, and made contact with them and got me on the team. And I'm having a blast. I'm just having so much fun. We're practicing 2 days a week and then games on the Saturdays. Our family is all good and healthy. I got a granddaughter about 18 months old who's a blast. I'm kayaking probably a couple times a week and enjoying life. It's great in the summertime and baseball. I mean, what else do you want?
Yeah. How about you, Kevin?
Well, I've been, one thing, my mom just celebrated her 91st birthday, and she's definitely my inspiration in a lot of ways, but she gets out on the tennis court still, and it's pretty spectacular. And I actually had a knee surgery back in March, so I have yet to make an appearance on the ball diamond this year, but seems like I'm a lot closer, and I'm looking forward to it. And so I saw my daughter for the first time last week in 18 months because of the pandemic. She lives up in Portland, and my wife and I, we're just, trying to enjoy every day and, be happy. And so things are going along pretty good.
Very good. Very good. How are you doing, Danny?
Oh, I'm doing fine. Retired now for about 6 years. Just playing baseball and playing music and keeping busy.
Yeah. I like that. Playing baseball, playing music. It's like, that's what you did before you started working. Then you worked and then you retired. Now you're playing baseball and playing music. Good stuff. So what were your home parks, Steve?
Krusi Colts.
Krusi Colt. Kevin?
I started out in Edison Indian, and then the second year of midgets, I was a Krusi Colt. So Krusi Colts, the team of champions, by the way.
I want to talk to you about that. There was a championship Little Coast year, I think.
68.
Yeah. 68, yeah. Dan, what was your home park?
Krusi Park.
Yeah, I remember. Well, you lived across the street from me for quite a few years. And that was our park. Go ahead.
Before that, I lived on Clay Street, and I was just 8 doors down from Krusi.
Oh, wow.
So my mom would whistle for lunch, and I'd hear her whistle, and I'd go home for lunch.
Oh,
Nice.
All right.
Yeah.
I grew up on the West End. We were on Pacific Avenue. We were up the street from the old Doggy Diner. And so my home park until I was 9 years old was Washington. I was a Washington Pirate. And then just before my 10th birthday, just before I started 5th grade, we moved across town to Adams Street. And the first Monday after the Saturday we moved, I was at Krusi Park and I was a Krusi Colt. So all of us were then. And then who were your park directors during that time?
The ones I remember most are the guys that really helped me out. The one I remember the most, who was the best, was Bob Howard. Bob, in the summertime, he'd be out there and I'd say, hey, Bob, can you hit me some flies? And we go out and he'd hit me as many flies as I wanted. Barry Weiss, again, was one of the best park directors there. Krusi, Cindy LaCroix, but mostly Bob. I remember Bob, and Bob and I had a lot of discussions. And I was 13, 14 years old, and I didn't really have a good father figure. And Bob really, he and I had a lot of heart to hearts. He's the one that talked me out of playing football anymore. One summer we're playing baseball. He goes, "What are you going to do? Are you going to play football?" I go, "Yeah, probably. I don't know. I don't really like it. I'm pretty good." But he goes, "Well, if you're really into baseball, you want to protect those knees, right, Kevin?"
Yeah.
And
I was absent for that discussion because I've had 3 knee surgeries.
yeah. So Bob talked me. I played football sophomore year, and then no more football. But baseball was always my favorite sport, and my memories of Krusi Park are just the best. The funny thing is that one of my best memories of playing with Kevin was that Pony League game we played against Alameda when Bob got us to play for 80 Gordon instead of Alameda, which was created quite a stir in Alameda. And we played Alameda on the same field that Danny and Kevin and I practice on now. I think it's the first diamond over there on the mound, and is it Calhoun or the far diamond? But that's the field we played that game on. And the funny thing is I've still got an 8mm, the only 8mm video film of any game I played, and Kevin's in that one. So that was in probably 68, 69, something like that. But yeah, those are the park directors that I remember.
Yeah. How about you, Kevin? Your park directors?
I remember, well, at Edison, it was Mike Myers was the park director, and he ended up being our Pop Warner football coach, and he was a good guy. He played at San Francisco State and was like an all coast wide receiver for the whole coast. And his quarterback was Bob Toledo, and they set all these records. And he was a real athlete, and he was a good guy. And the park league was, Barry Weiss was a good guy. Bob Howard, of course. Jim Tavernier was another one that we at Krusi. And I have to say it was pretty serious when we played. I mean, it was for fun, but it was serious. And I this is probably showing my age, but it wasn't the era of you get a trophy because you showed up. You got a trophy when you won, and when you didn't win, you got zip. And when you were goofing around, you might start running until the guy told you he was tired. And it was just significantly different. And I think the one thing we probably all learned as kids, there were rules, there was consequences when you didn't follow the rules. And there were going to be times when you were not doing the right thing. Somebody was going to let you know, and it wasn't going to be, "Gee, Johnny, would you like to go do this or that?" It was, "Hey, do this or get out of the park and don't ever come back." And it was, so I think as kids, we loved the park. We wanted to be at the park. And of course we were little psychos that tried to break every rule. But if if a guy said, "Don't ride your bike in the park," and you did a few times, you went home. And there was nothing worse than being at home when your buddies were at the park. That was like the kiss of death, because your life was the park. So
to piggyback on that, the day that we had our picture taken for our 1968 Little Coast League championship game, the paper came out like they always did to take pictures of the kids. Well, that day I was riding my bike in the park, and Cindy LaCroix kicked me out. I wasn't in the picture, and I still give her shit about that.
Yeah.
Well, you're in our minds.
Yeah. How about you, Dan? Did you have the same park directors?
Yeah, exact same. Yeah.
So
I remember Jim Tavernier and Barry Weiss and all those guys. They were great.
Yeah. The first person I ever met the Monday after we moved on a Saturday in October, And on that Monday, there was flag football. And the first person I met at the park was Barry. And he was coaching the team. And Barry Weiss was there, Phil Kamisha, Gary Birdie, and Steve Ratto. Those were the ones I remember the
Motley
most.
Crue.
Yeah. But the first thing he told me was take a lap around the backstops. And I thought he meant just one. So I went around the backstop and on the field around. You got finished quick. Did you run the whole thing? No. So then I realized you have to run around the whole thing. But that guy inspired me. I was kind of on the lazy side as a kid. I didn't want to run. I didn't think I was that good of an athlete, and I wasn't. But I found out in high school, the other kids that weren't really good athletes, that maybe were real little or just weren't that good, by the time they got in high school, they were pretty good because they did the running and they did they had the motivation. And I learned a lot from Barry, and I learned a lot from watching what was going on out there because like Kevin said, everybody did not get a trophy. The people that got the trophies and the people that made all-stars were the people that did the work and did well. And then, I asked about park directors, and people are listening that aren't really maybe not familiar with Alameda. Park directors were like 19-year-old kids. And we were between the ages of 9 and 14. So they weren't much older than us, but they were in charge. And they ran the park all day. And what were they? Maybe 30 kids that would show up, 35 kids that would show up. And they took care of us, and they had a lot of responsibility, but they were great people. And Barry was an incredible one. And they're unforgettable. They're unforgettable. The other thing was each park we were all Krusi Colts at one point, and each park had their rival. They had their own identity, and they had their rival. And when you guys were playing at Krusi, who was a big rival?
Well, we were a powerhouse. We had a good team. I think most of those guys who played on that 68 Little Coast League team ended up being the starters at Alameda High School. We played Franklin Eagles in the championship game, and they were strong. Steve Choi was their pitcher. He was solid. He wasn't solid the championship game. We thumped them 10-0. Billy Elzig had 7 RBIs. I had a couple of hit knocks, and we killed them, and we loved that. And I still bring it up. I'm going to play golf with all those knuckleheads in September. Every time I get together with them, it always comes up, and it's fun. I mean, these guys still, remember everything too. I'd probably say Franklin was our rival at the time.
And Rittler was a good team.
Yeah, Rittler had Bartel and those guys. Yeah.
How about you, Kevin?
I would say in the baseball, Franklin, I guess, was our biggest rival. But in the flag football, it was Estuary. And Estuary was always a tough rival. And we had some huge games against them. And I remember when we were in the 7th grade and we were playing at the park, Krusi, there was people standing the whole length of the field when we played, and it was a big game, and we beat them. And Krusi was, I'm like Steve and like Dan, you see your friends, now is where we are in our life, and it gets around to the park league. But the bottom line is Krusi was the park of champions. The park had great guys. Rittler, Mike Bartel was a great player. Steve Choi was a great player. And the grade that was above us, Franklin, we had Mike Bordner and Jeff White. And those were all guys that
Mike McCollum,
those were all guys that went on and played, and some went higher than high school. And Mike Bartel and Mike Bordner, they signed. They were great. But as great as those teams were, we were the greatest. That's it. If you were to sum it up, Steve, in your, it's like Muhammad Ali said, I'm the greatest. Well, you're talking about Park League during our time. We were the greatest.
So
Yeah, we sucked
Muhammad
it up.
Ali,
We grew.
yeah, Muhammad Ali, Ricky Henderson, and Alameda Park and Krusi Colts.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
There you Ricky Henderson.
Right.
I briefly played professional baseball. I signed a
Yeah.
contract with the A's after Cal, and I was on the Modesto A's, and I went to spring training. Fortunately, I got hurt. That was it, my big dream. But I was on Modesto with Ricky Henderson, and so we were getting ready to play a game. We were at Fitch Park in Arizona, where we have this men's senior baseball, because the great thing we're doing now, there's another level where they have the World Series in October, and you get to play in all the ballparks from teams all over the United States, really actually all over the world. But that's a little bit, we digress. But every kid knew, when you're sitting in a dugout, you do not bounce the baseball against, the wall. And at Krusi, it was a chain link fence, so you couldn't actually do that. But when you played a little higher level, there were cement dugouts. But you just were taught as a kid, hey, don't bounce the ball against. It's like Steve McQueen in The Great Escape when he's in the cooler, and he's bouncing the ball, that annoying noise. So we're getting ready to play Pompano, and Ricky Henderson is like two guys over from me, and he bounces the ball. And of course, it hits off the pole, and the ball rolls right between my legs and sticks right between my legs.
He was young. Yeah.
He was.
Yeah. Well, our rival, I'm about three years behind you guys, and our rival I think it was Washington. And that was about the time, there were all those years where Alameda High dominated Encinal High in football. But then in the early to mid 70s, it started getting closer. And there were a group of guys on the West End, Rusty Henschel, Tom Ravey,
Cannellan,
Larry
Mike Harrison, and you guys probably, Dan, who'd you mention?
Cannellan.
Could be, yeah. I don't know that name, but they started
Larry
coming
Krause.
up. Ray Krause, yeah.
Yeah.
Steve Hearn, but they, I think, all played at Washington, and Washington got really good. So they were a rival. And then you guys mentioned some names like Steve Choi. The guy we were always hearing about was Mark Ironside. And it was different then because we played for a neighborhood park, and in Little League now, they draft from throughout the city. So a kid that lives on Bay Farm Island could be on the same team as a kid that lives on the West End or anywhere. So it makes everything different, but we didn't really know everybody, at least at Krusi, until we played each other. But we kept hearing about Mark Ironside, and I had one good moment. And I was playing third base in Little Coast League. And that was the first year they allow us to steal. You couldn't take a lead, but you can steal. And Mark Ironside was on second base, and I was playing third base, and he took off. And I took the throw from the catcher, and Mark blew me up as if he was at home plate, as if I was a catcher. He ran through third base and blew me up, and I did a somersault backward, got up, held out the ball, and he was out. It was my one moment in life on the baseball field.
Yeah,
and
that's fun
I
stuff.
talked to him about that. We had our 40-year reunion in 2015, and he doesn't remember, but I do. But yeah, we all had our moments, some more than others, but that was a fun one. Did your parents go to the games? That's a big thing right now with Little League.
Back in the day for Park League, we always, there were games after school during the week. And, my mom was a single parent, and she would always come on the weekend games. And once we started playing Babe Ruth and stuff, she never missed a game. But you didn't see too many parents at Park League games. I mean, that was our boys, and we were practicing and playing. And, transportation to the games mostly was, riding your bike. And, but I don't remember seeing many parents at Park League games. Cap?
No, our parents, they worked
Right.
and, and the parents just were just like Steve said, when we started, playing a little bit different level of sports where they were on the weekends, then then your folks would come if they
Yeah.
could. But yeah, it was nothing like it is, like it is now. And it's, yeah, Park League was just so beautiful. The bottom line was you had a park director who was a good guy, knew something about sports. You played a game one day a week, but as a kid, you went to the park every single day, and we played more games, amongst ourselves, 3-on-3, pitching to each other,
Yeah.
keeping your batting average, whatever it was.
Pitcher's hands, and
Pitcher's
closing
hand,
fields,
or,
everything else. Yeah.
all these kinds of really great things. And it was organized by you as a kid. And there was really, the park director didn't get involved in that. He'd give you the balls and tell you, go out there and, and have fun, whatever. But that was another thing that was great about Park League when we got to play, is because kids learned how to solve disputes themselves.
Mhm.
And when a kid started to be, started being a knucklehead, the other kids just said, hey man, later, or whatever we said then. It was just like, well, you don't get to play, get out of here, and then suddenly you had to cooperate, and you solved your problems. And I can remember of recent times, because I was kind of involved in a little deal where we kind of tried to get the Park League going again, and it was going before the pandemic. And I asked Phil Russi, who's in charge of a lot of that. I said, how come I don't ever see any kids playing at the park without their parents or some organized thing? I go, why is that? I go, I live across the street from Franklin Park, and if there's adults there, there's kids there, but there's never kids on the diamond yelling and screaming at each other and having fun. And he told me this, and I couldn't believe it. He goes, well, a lot of times kids now, they can't figure out how to get their own game going. And I go, you got to be kidding me. I go, their parents have to set up the play date at the park now? And he goes, yeah, kind of. And I just said, you know what? I feel bad. There shouldn't be adults around kids 24/7. No way.
Yeah.
No way.
I've got a theory on that. My dad's generation, he couldn't really play ball because he was helping his family get through the Depression. And anytime he was playing ball, he could have been home working. Our generation, I think we were the greatest play generation ever. We owned play because we'd go out and play, and that gave, my mom was a stay-at-home mom until I was about 12, but she would get things done while I was at the park, and it wasn't her job to watch me play. And then the next generation came, and the parents hovered over everything. And it was like Kevin said, the parents made all the rules and handled the disputes. And it was just 3 different generations and 3 different experiences growing up and playing. Is that kind of, how did you find it, Danny?
Yeah, I find the same thing. We were locked into sports. Now there's so much going on with these kids. They just don't hang out at the park anymore. I think a lot has to do with the phone.
No, the parents won't let them go to the park alone.
Yeah, and the parents won't let them go to the park alone.
Yeah. I've had parents say that to where they feel their kids are in danger.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
Yeah.
like I said, I think our generation, the baby boom generation owned the idea of going out and playing, and it was incredible. So
A couple of things I remember the most about Park League was, when the shirts came.
Oh yeah.
When they also
what
drop
color?
off the boxes for the shirts, and you'd be getting there, you want to make sure you got one, and you want to get one that fit. And the first thing you did when you got home, you cut off the sleeves.
Yeah,
Because you wore your white T-shirt underneath there, man, and that was it. That was it.
Did you guys look for
That's a good
Kansas City athletic hats for Krusi
No,
Colts?
shit.
Yeah,
no.
we talked about that for a couple of years. Yeah.
If we got a bat day hat, that's what I
Yeah.
wore because we didn't have a lot of money. I didn't have my own bat. I didn't have, any fancy hats. Nowadays I'm picking up bats on eBay for the senior league. But I remember back like Little Coast where, the team would get 2 bats, right?
Mhm.
And you grab one and you get up there and you liked it and you're hitting good with it. And then some kid gets up there and you hear that sound and you just kind of go, crap, there goes my bat. And then you got to learn how to hit with the last bat until someone went down to Sporting Goods maybe and put down their $7 or $8 for a new wood bat. But yeah, those are good old days.
Yeah. There was, you talk about equipment, there were guys, I was one of them every once in a while. I wouldn't be playing in cleats. I'd be playing in my sneakers.
Yeah.
Once in a while, a parent would splurge and get their kids cleats.
I didn't wear cleats.
Yeah.
In 8th grade.
Blue jeans and sneakers.
You, Kevin, you wear cleats back then? I don't think so. I didn't get cleats till high school.
I don't really, maybe, but it was a lot. I'll tell you, it was a lot of black Converse. I'll tell you that. I remember wearing those a lot, and we probably wore those when we played. I forget when I got a pair of spikes. I don't. That's a really good question. Definitely not playing as a peewee or a
no.
or as in the 5th and 6th grade. But I don't remember.
I don't think they had plastic spikes back then. I think they were all metal.
Oh, they were all metal.
So either spikes or nothing, I think, or tennis shoes.
Yeah.
I think flag football is when we had spikes.
Yeah. I think we had football cleats in the flag football. I agree with you, Dan.
And those would have been plastic cleats, kind of like soccer, right?
No, they had. I remember those.
Were they metal?
No, they had big spikes in them though.
Yeah,
that's right.
With the metal, because when you walked on the cement with them, if you ran, you could get sparks on the.
That's another game we figured out. Make the sparks. Yeah. All right, good. Yeah. All right, so we talked about the Little Coast Championship. That could be it. What was your greatest moment in Park League baseball, Steve?
Well, honestly, I don't remember a lot of the individual games, but I do remember that championship game. It was Upper Washington. Everybody showed up from our side, so we had our strong team. And I remember, even back then, Choi was throwing pretty hard, and he had that 12-6 curveball. But Billy Elzig, for some reason, every time he got up in that game, bases were loaded. I think he probably had 3 hits. With the bases loaded, we won 10-0. Yeah. My buddy Steve Zamparelli, remember Steve Zamparelli?
He was a good pitcher.
Really good pitcher. Big lefty. He threw the shutout in the championship game. And then later that summer, his dad was in the Air Force, so he got transferred to Hawaii. And he and I were good friends. I used to go to his house all the time. And his parents actually invited me over to their house for a month in Hawaii between 8th grade and freshman year. So I spent a month in Hawaii hanging out with him. But he was a good pitcher, obviously. He dueled Choi and won.
All right.
Yeah, Zamparelli was left-handed, right?
Yeah, big lefty.
Yeah.
Well, Choi was too.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Kevin? Your greatest moment?
I don't know. I mean, we had a good team, and I always did pretty good, and
yeah, you did.
I was a pretty good player. I don't really remember anything too outrageous, but we always had some good games together, and I remember I just remember, really, to be honest with you, hanging out with my friends and really having a good time, and that's what I remember. I do remember, though, that one picture that you're talking about that Steve had indicated before, and my favorite baseball player was Willie Mays.
Yeah.
And so when the guy, the photographer, I think it was like Bordone and Zagaroni or something like that, came and he asked me what my name was, and I told him, I said, my name's Willie Kearney. So it goes in the newspaper as Willie Kearney, and my mom, being my mom, goes, how come your name's Willie Kearney? That's not your name. And me being me, I go, I don't know, Mom, misprint.
Yeah, yeah.
But I had told
You, you remember the play ball thing
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
and the newspaper thing. And I don't know how many, because my mom used to cut out every piece of paper that had my name in it. But a lot of times the guys at the paper didn't have your first names. So
Yeah.
I've got 7 or 8 with my last name, but a different made up first name. I'm like, what the heck? You know? But they just didn't have the data.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Danny? Do you have
I remember
any great moments?
Yeah, there was one. We were playing the Estuary Rams at Krusi, and I think we were losing 2-1. Bases were loaded, and I just happened to slap one out to left field and went to third base, and we won the game.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
It-
It's funny, Steve. When
lucky hit.
I doubt that. When you're talking about the articles, I actually have somewhere here in my office, Matt Duncan, who's a friend of mine, and he's down the hall from me. I'm in the Old Time Star building. His first wife, who has passed away tragically from cancer, she worked for the park department, but the park department actually had a scrapbook where they cut out every single article. So I have a book in here somewhere from 1966 that has every activity, including swimming, the social whirl, whatever was in the paper. And I actually have this really cool book. And one thing I used to do with some of my clients is like Lester Mean is a client of mine, and he was a McKinley Bear. Well, he made Player of the Week one time. And so I found this article. So I photocopied it. I threw it in his tax return, and I didn't tell him, and he's married to Denise Ratto, who's,
Right.
the Ray Ratto, who was, he was not a Krusi Colt. He was a Krusi Mustang, a fact that I've pointed out many times to him when I meet him and he's acting high and mighty, pontificating on the radio and such. But anyway, it was kind of cool. But you're right, Steve. Who knows what the first names could be in any one moment. But that was the other thing that was great. When you were a little kid, if you did something cool, your name was in the paper, and you'd go,
Absolutely.
paper. It was great.
Yeah.
Great.
You get that Friday Times Star, and the first thing you do, you find the play ball section. You're like, hey, what?
Yeah.
Oh, 4 for 4.
Yeah, where am I?
Yeah. That Player of the Week was a big deal. That was, everybody waited for that. That was a big deal. Yeah.
That was fun.
So how does it joy? You got all 3 of you have expressed a lot of joy about Park League baseball. How does it compare to the joy you have playing now? What's it like playing in the 65-year-old league and
Dude,
just staying active?
For me, it's every bit as much fun, and there are a bunch of reasons for it. First one is, when you hit 65, and I'm 66 now, you start looking at the potential, usable, enjoyable years of your life left. And, I've come up with a number that I'm thinking I'm going to be able to do the things that I'm still doing right now: kayaking, hanging out, golfing, now baseball again.
Yeah.
And honestly, every time I show up, I'm smiling, I'm doing the best I can, I'm having a blast. And the cool thing is that we're playing these teams, and all these guys are the same. They're all old baseball guys that are still, physically fit enough to play. And a lot of them played in the bigs. And the thing I enjoy most about that is, I don't want to say I'm just as good as they are now, but I think I am. Back then I wasn't. But now that we're all old farts, stumbling around, kicking balls around the infield and striking out, more times than we want, I'm like, well, dude, you and me, we're simpatico, we're equals out here now, which is fun. I mean, it's still a fun thing for me to do. And I thank Kevin for getting me back in.
Great. How about you, Kevin?
Well, I got to tell you, I think I've played this senior baseball probably, I think when I started back playing baseball was like, I don't know, maybe when I was about 40. I hadn't played baseball since I was in my early 20s when I, my end of my baseball was the end of my baseball. So I've done it a pretty long time. But I would say now in the 65s is a little bit better than peewees. Maybe it's midgets. I don't know about Little Coast. And what would really be really cool if they still had Park League is to take our 65-year-old team and just square up against the Little Coast guys and just see what would happen. I
think we'd handle them, Kay.
I think with these kids in these days, I think we would. But had they been playing our team, I don't know. But I kind of think that that's like it is, because I would say in the senior baseball, running, very difficult to do. Catching the pop-up, you're always taught to square the ball up in baseball, drive it. Now, if you hit the pop-up, 5 feet out and 150 feet up, that's a good chance you're probably hitting 500 on the pop-up. So I would say that the triple is something that is probably like hitting a grand slam in Major League Baseball. The triple is not a part of the program, especially on some of these fields where the grass is about 2 feet long and the ball sticks.
Yeah,
that could be a problem. But yeah, there's a lot of similarities. But like Steve said, it's fun to be with your buddies. When you do good in baseball, it's now it's really cool. When you don't do so good, it's not quite as bad as when you were a kid where you're just pissed off for like to the next game.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's still like that for me.
Yeah, well, it's probably not quite as that bad. But the other thing too is, it's the note. When you leave your game now and you're not injured, you're thankful that you're not injured. When you were a little kid, you never thought about anything like that. You were fearless.
No.
So
Yeah, we've had some bad ones this year. But talking about running, I played a little softball since I quit playing baseball over the years, and running 60 feet to first. Yeah, that's not bad. 90 feet again.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
You get about 60 feet and you're going, where is it?
Yeah.
God,
I remember how that changed everything when we went to from midgets to Little Coast, and they added the 30 feet. It was like it changed the world.
No, and coming back and trying to throw.
Yeah.
I need a cutoff man from third base to first. I go, hey, pitcher, cut one. It's like I'm getting it back. But Danny's still flinging it, man. Danny's got his arm. He's still got his arm.
Right.
I don't know about Kevin. Kevin's been on the DL. I haven't seen him throw, but I'm coming back. But it's not easy.
Yeah, we'll see. I remember
That's why we're out there.
We played a couple years we played 2 years ago, and Dan was out there in left field. He made some good catches. Not too many guys are going to dive for balls. Dan did. He did.
All right.
Fantastic.
So Dan, it sounds like you're still having a lot of fun then.
Yeah. Oh, it's a blast.
Yeah.
I thank Kevin for getting me on the team a few years back, but I've been playing softball for quite a few years, and then I stopped that and I was looking for something else to get into, and this is satisfying. Yeah.
Great. So it sounds like Kevin was the instigator.
Yeah.
Very
Well,
good.
He kept me going.
Kevin knew about it. I bugged him so much, he finally got me in, so I wouldn't bug him anymore.
Right.
I wanted to get some good guys on the team, and I knew the guys that were good. So
Yeah. All right. Very good. The talent scout.
yeah.
Yeah. So Steve, you were talking about kind of having a number of good years left, and that's a good time to ask what's on your bucket list now. All three of you. What you're doing baseball now, but what do you want to do?
Well, honestly, I'm having a blast doing what I'm doing. I'm not working that much, but still my days are full. And, adding basically 3 days of baseball has just been bonus time for me. We go down to Krusi and practice from 10:30 till 1 o'clock. I'm soaking wet, sweating, we take infield for an hour and then, shag balls, everybody hits. And, I come home, I'm drenched and just having a blast. I can feel my body getting stronger. I'm still kayaking. I like going fishing in my kayak, crabbing, and salmon season's opening up next weekend. I'm going to head out to Half Moon Bay. I've got a couple salmon off my kayak, which is a lot of fun to do. And then my granddaughter just, we only have one. I know we're going to have some more. My older daughter's getting married in October, and my life's going to be full. We've got a lot of stuff going on. It's all fun stuff.
Good, good. How about you, Kevin?
Well, I mean, the sports, I like to play tennis. I'm a pretty good tennis player, and I play on a team that we do this competition with Mexico. It's called the Osuna Cup, named after Rafael Osuna. And so I like to play tennis. I like the baseball, and I like to play music. I play in a little band, and I enjoy playing the guitar, and I take my music lessons, which are challenging, and and so I like I certainly have a lot of things to do, and I'm starting to slow down my work a little bit, and I'm kind of like what Steve said. When you have your number in your head and you say, geez, I'm closer to 80 than I am 50, that's kind of a sobering thought. I look at my mom, and and she's had very good health, but I mean, it's just every day. I think we live in very, very trying times right now. And I think it's very puzzling. And, I just tell myself and anybody that I know, try to find something good every day. And when you're doing that thing that you really like, enjoy it, focus on it, love it, because there'll be something else that comes along that you just kind of shake your head and go, what is this? So I just say, just focus on the real positive, enjoy it, and, keep riding the wave. We're all going to fall off one day, but it's not going to be anytime soon, hopefully. So.
Yeah, you start looking at that Little Coast League picture, there's guys on that picture ain't around anymore. And you wonder how long did they go doing what they wanted to do before one day they weren't around anymore. So that's kind of how I look at it, as go do it. We have guys, there was a guy who suffered a heart attack after a game, 2 weeks ago. Last week, some guy compound fracture on a collision in the game before ours. I mean, there's a lot of things. I mean, those guys at 65, one guy, it was a ACL or a torn meniscus, and the other guy compound fracture. Compound fracture at 65 or above and coming back to play baseball, not likely, I don't think. But, you just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah. How about you, Dan?
Well, I'm enjoying being retired right now, and I try to stay busy. I go to the gym 3 times a week and
Good.
work out 3 times with the baseball team, and play.
Danny's fit. He can get around.
Yeah.
He can get around.
Somewhat.
Yeah. Are you still playing music, Danny?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got 2 music guys.
Yeah. I do tambourine. If you need me, fill in.
We'll have to hire you, Steve.
I'll do it for free.
Yeah. Yeah. Danny and I lived across the street from each other. So we'd go out in the front yard and they'd be in the playing in the garage at their house with Mark Trujillo.
Oh, yeah.
Danny's dad, Ray, was a beautiful singer. And I mean, it was, but we'd get entertained all the time on Adams Street. So, yeah. Well, that's fantastic. I appreciate all 3 of you guys being on. I mean, the memories of the Park League. I came up with one more, and I was thinking about that today. If you had a Mount Rushmore, okay, so if you had a Mount Rushmore of Park League baseball, Lil Arnrich ran the recreation department, so he'd be on there.
Yeah.
Can you think of 3 other guys who would be on there?
Could there be a lady?
A lady, yeah.
Sandy.
Yeah.
From Franklin.
Okay.
Love Sandy.
I don't know. A lot of people involved. I don't know who, talking about organizational folks. Grant Mainland, was it Mainland? Was, responsible for a lot of the organizational things. But as far as park directors, they're kids doing summer jobs. So, there wasn't a legacy there that necessarily was left to more than just a couple of age groups of kids for a couple of years, but, made big impressions on me. I didn't know a lot of the park directors from some of the other parks. So I don't know. I'd have to think about that.
Yeah.
I think
you,
I put
Kevin?
Win Courier on the
Win
list.
Courier,
yeah.
that's another
Win
one.
Courier, yeah, for sure.
Win Courier was a columnist for the Alameda Times-Star,
Yeah.
and he covered everything. He just
Yeah.
he loved being in the community.
That's
Right.
right, Danny.
Yeah, good call.
Yeah.
Can you think of any, Kevin?
That's a tough one. All the park directors that we had, they were all, they were good at the time that we were there. But as far as them, I don't even know how long they were park directors, because a lot of them, like Steve said, they were not that much older than we were. They were summer jobs. If you're going to go, of course, Lil. The great story with Lil is he'd come down to the park and he'd go, "Hey kid, how are you doing?" He goes, "Throw me one." He goes, "Throw it as hard as you can." And you go, but Mr. Arnott, you have no glove. He goes, "I didn't say that. Throw it at me. I'll catch it." So you're a little kid and you're going, "I'm going to light this old man up." And you're about 40 feet away. You chuck your indoor hard at him, and he'd catch it with one hand. "That's all you got, kid?" And he'd roll the ball back, and then he'd be off into the wind. He was. The other guy though that could probably be up there too, just for the fact of being part of the overall thing. Wynn was the reporter, but Jack Clark, the sports, he was the sports editor. And the great thing about the Times-Star is they'd put anything in if you gave it to them. You could, you talk about fake news now, you could write anything and send it in. It's getting posted. So I think he was very instrumental, because the Times-Star was, you had a sports page that went on and on and on and on. And of course it was, the major wire service stuff, but a lot of it was the local.
How about Sammy Spear?
The umpire, Sammy Spear.
Yeah.
Well, Sammy.
Yeah.
Great names.
The thing with Sammy, when you got 2 strikes, you better be swinging.
Yeah.
He just wanted to scream out strike 3.
He practiced that at home in the mirror, I'm sure. That dude was, oh my God.
Yeah.
You know how he got it? Do you know how Sammy Spear got his name?
No.
His real name's not Sammy. His real name's Tom Spear.
Really?
Yeah, his real name's Tom Spear. But the Jackie Gleason show, when we were little kids, had Sammy Spear in his orchestra. He was the orchestra leader. And so that's how he became Sammy.
Sammy just took it over.
Yeah, but
Sam Spear's a music guy too. He loves band music. I've heard him interviewed.
Yeah, he's the horse track. He's the horse guy now.
He's the Golden Gate Fields guy now. Yeah.
Forever.
So,
Been out there forever.
yeah. I'm glad you talked about the Times-Star, because I was not a good student. I didn't like to read. But if it wasn't for the Times-Star and Sports Illustrated, I'd have never read. I'd get the Times-Star, the play ball section or whatever, and I'd inhale it. I just sit there at the kitchen table, and it's the same thing with Sports Illustrated. And there's a lot of us that was the most fun we ever had reading, was picking up the Times-Star. And it could have been Win Courier, it could have been Jack Clark, but it was some good stuff. So anyway, thank you guys for being on today. It was fun.
All right, Kevin, we need you against the Cardinals on the 26th. So we need you rehabbed and ready to go.
Actually, I think I'm actually gonna go out at the beginning of next week with George and play a little bit of catch.
All right.
And see how I feel. And
All right.
if I can do anything, I'll come, because I got to start getting some games in.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, Angela's worried about you qualifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Angelo's our manager. He's a great guy, but he's a little serious. That's all.
He's very serious.
Yeah.
Intense. All right. Well, thank you guys.
All right, Steve.
Thank everybody for listening today. And to find out more about Productive Discourse, please go to productivediscourse.home.blog. That'll give you great information on what we do, how you can contact me if you'd like me to speak at your service club, community organization, or religious group. Now, this was the first episode of Park League Baseball, and we're going to keep this going. The second episode will be next week, and we're going to just continue to celebrate Alameda Park League Baseball. But in the meantime, please like, share, comment, and subscribe so this message can go far and wide, and we'll find that shining needle of common ground in that haystack of fear.